Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Vince.
Good night podcast. Hello Xbox.
We've got Chris.
This hat cost $1,000.
Whoa, I'm Kia. Hi, welcome to the show. We are doing some comics that have burned us in the past, but it's okay. We trust them this time. We're doing some Archie. But we haven't read any like Archie proper, I guess, on the show, and I don't even know if this counts as Archie proper either, because
I don't think it
this
does.
This is the 2015 Archie reboot, but none of that like Archie horror stuff that we've been reading here. What have we read? We've read Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is great. We read Afterlife with Archie, which we were not into. Then we read Jughead the Hunger, which we were really not into.
Yes.
And so we're into this whole Marvel Archie thing. Excuse me. We're like kind of into them and their reboots. This one, I know I've read the first few issues. I don't think either of y'all had read any of this stuff, but I really remember enjoying this back in 2015. So I figured it was worth trying to redeem Archie in our eyes and their rebooty ways.
Well, and it's Valentine's Day, so we were looking. We were looking for some like type of romance comics. I mean, we could have gone for some like 60s Romita comics, I guess, but failing that, we went to Archie. And to be fair, this reboot's nothing like what you would see like at a supermarket, like the Archie Double Digest you might see at the grocery store.
With like super throwback styles of art and everything. Would you even call it like a throwback if it's just like been going for that long that it just kept the same art, you know?
Well, because I have a friend who drew that Archie comic like in the mid 2000s. He drew a few issues. And they have a style that they're supposed to adhere to. You know, the way that like DC has a house style, which is kind of gone in Marvel. They all had house styles back, more so in the past. But they've just that's what you're supposed to draw. He also drew for Sonic the Hedgehog a couple issues. I saw him drawing. But
oh wow, where's his DeviantArt page? Can I just go directly to that?
I know. Yeah, he drew for Sonic and Archie. I mean, because wasn't Sonic published by Archie at the time?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, he was just like just slot in artists however you would go. They're not any consistent artist, I guess, for Archie comics. And I have no idea like how much of like an Archie comic at the grocery store is half reprint and half like new content month to month, or if it even is published month to month. I know it's probably one of the best selling comics just straight up out there because it's actually sold in stores that aren't just comic book stores.
Right, in terms of like overall sales, because they're selling trade paperbacks, but in volumes that is probably more than like a Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be to sell right next to like a People magazine, so it's got to have some type of circulation. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's weird to think about. Yeah. No, this is not that. This is just a complete and total reboot in a very like super monthly continuing story kind of format. Which, again, my impression of old Archie comics is that they would never continue stories, really. It would just be a lot of, like, silly one-and-done stories that end with, Archie, but I've never, like, actually read any of them. Well, other than, reprints.
I've flipped through them, but I've never, I just, in my head, and I could be totally wrong, listeners, it's just like an 8 to 12 page story. And then that's, and a few of them per issue, and then, like, here's a Betty and Veronica chapter.
The key to finding out whether it's a reprint or a relatively new story is look at how they're using phones in the story. If they have like a rotary phone, it's a 70s story. If they have like a bulky cell phone, it's like a 10-year-old story. And if they have like an iPhone, then it's a story from the past 8 or 9 years.
Interesting.
In my headcanon, Archie is the same as Bazooka Joe. Like they're the same length stories. And the same point to any of the stories. It's like a 3-panel joke versus a 12-page joke, but it's the same thing. I hate to disappoint any Archie fans that are out there. Surprisingly, in my life, I've run into more than a few people who are fans of like original Archie comics and don't care about any reboots or anything like that. And I don't know where these people have existed or where they come from, but they do exist. So
I mean, to get to the end of it, like I read this and it's totally pleasant. And like the foreword for this trade collection from the artist Fiona Staples says, like, I don't want to do this reboot. Like this sounds like a dumb idea to reboot Archie. Like, Archie works because it works, and even if people don't like it, like the people it works for. So like, let's not mess with that. And Mark Waid, the writer, the first conversation he had with the artist, is like, first off, there's nothing wrong with Archie. Like, that was what he said. Like, we're going to do an Archie comic. We're not going to like upend the tables the way the Riverdale TV show, which came out I think a year after this, would like make a dark Archie or like how we read Afterlife with Archie. Like, that's fucking with the Archie formula. This is explicitly, we're going to do Archie, but we're going to do it in a modern sensibility. Like, that's what this comic is.
Yeah, and I think it does succeed. This is coming from a person who does not read old Archie, but it feels like a nice update without like being modern and edgy just for the sake of being like super edgy or anything weird like that. It just like kind of is. It's he's an all around good kid, just living in modern times, trying to do right, just running into stuff, being a bit of a klutz. I like that he is such a.
I'm getting to my thesis probably at the end of this, but basically this feels like a show about teens I would have watched on Nickelodeon when I was like 9 or 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not like dark. There's no murder or intrigue. It's just like, it's like Hey Dude, but which is like, it's not an insult because Hey Dude is not good, but it's not meant to be an insult. It's meant to be like me younger looking at teenage years being like, oh, this looks like so much fun. Like,
right.
Well, I can't wait to get to high school. I want to be a welcome freshman.
Clarissa Explains It All, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's that super kind of tongue-in-cheek style of just, well, especially the way he like addresses the camera a lot. It has a very Saved by the Bell kind of feel to it.
Yeah, Saved by the Bell. That it took me that long to loop back to that. Yes, Saved by the Bell. There we
go. Yeah. I think, are we ready to just kind of like jump into it? Do we need to say anything else about it?
#, lipstick incident. I remember.
Oh no.
I want to say either like in our vamping or like warm-ups like years ago when we first started the show, you were talking about reading Archie and the lipstick incident and how they hadn't revealed it.
I had?
Yeah.
Because they reveal it pretty quick. They reveal it in issue 4. Maybe I just never read issue 4.
I was wondering if they had a publishing delay, but they didn't.
Yeah, I don't remember any of these because then I kind of noticed that the artist changed and I remember bits and pieces from like issues 5 and 6, but I must have just not been paying attention. I just liked the first couple issues and then I stopped caring. But let's get into it. They're all pretty good and fun. We just start off with Archie kind of introducing himself to the viewer, and instantly they just give you so much history. Mark Waid, as we mentioned, writes this and just fills in with like, okay, they used to be a couple, him and Betty. And the lipstick incident has happened, and they are no longer a couple.
Yeah, Betty and Veronica, of course, are the two people vying for Archie's love. Betty's the girl next door, quite literally. Mm-hmm. Should we go into who also is the creative team here? We mentioned Mark Waid. We know Mark Waid. And we've talked about him a lot. I know we covered Kingdom Come, which I do not think was very good of his. But I think it's more Alex Ross than anything. But he's just a classic good writer from the 90s to today. That has written a lot of good books, usually like looking a little towards the past. His Daredevil run from a couple years ago was really, really good. And then the art team, we got Fiona Staples. The first person is Fiona Staples. She did most recently Saga with Brian K. Vaughan, which is a big independent comic. I think it's one of the top trade sellers. I need to sell my issue 1 because it's worth a lot of money. Apparently, I didn't really like it, but it's good.
Wow!
And then
I really liked what I read of Saga.
Yeah, it's just over real quickly. So I thought that it's beautiful art, but it's 1 or 2 panels per page, so it reads quickly. And then the other artist after Fiona Staples leaves with issue 3 is Annie Wu for issue 4, and then Veronica Fish for issues 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about them.
Me neither. So Veronica, we mentioned, is Archie's second love interest who kind of comes in later. She's not here yet. Right now, we're just kind of like building a little bit of history within this world. And I think the ensemble cast does a really nice job of that too. They're just kind of like, they're the ones selling it for us about how important they were as a couple. And everyone's like, oh my God, we got to get Betty and Archie back together. They're just like this it couple, that kind of thing. And, we see the hurt that comes with a teenage romance and things not working out, that kind of stuff. Jughead is telling everyone to leave them alone. But everyone decides that they are going to, like, they know how to get Betty and Archie back together. They're going to vote for them to be king and queen of the prom, or no, of homecoming. Which one was it? Homecoming, I think.
Which
and-
I don't really know how that works, because I remember like homecoming and king and queen weren't really like, they were just two popular kids, but not necessarily like in a romantic interest. They generally had other boyfriends and girlfriends at the time, and they just like walked down a line and were like, "Hey, yep, here we are, bye."
But imagine if we made these two walk down a line together. Oh my God, they'd have to get back together.
Exactly. It is like a Disney show level of like, why would you think that would work?
But Jughead says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to be on the ballot for counting this stuff. I'll be your inside guy. I'll make sure this works. But all I need is a bit of super glue." And they're like, "What? Why do you need super glue?" And Jughead, of course, has some secret plan that we'll see later. We should talk a little bit about the characterizations of Archie and Betty here. Archie is shown to be a little bit of a doofus. He's got like a lot of jobs. He sets his job at the ice cream place on fire with the owner. Like, how did you even do that? I love that.
It's a good bit.
It is a great bit. He is a bit of a tech, an audio tech guy. He's helping to set up the band at homecoming. He plays the guitar, that kind of thing. Betty, meanwhile, is a bit of a tomboy. She doesn't like to dress up. She likes to work on cars, bit of a mechanic. And so, we just kind of see that they were a good couple. We don't know what this lipstick incident is, but they vowed never to speak of it again. But they also... Did they vow to never speak of it again? Because they also keep saying they haven't said two words to each other since.
Yeah.
So I don't know when they vowed never to speak of it, but
yeah, I mean, it's high school drama, but it's like
high school
drama. Like, but the respect of like, I'm not going to talk about this because obviously I look bad in this story. We're just going to call it the lipstick incident, and none shall speak of it again.
Yeah.
But in terms of like this, like it's still set. Like I felt invested in their relationship like pretty quickly. That they broke, like Betty comes off really well. Like the fact that like she like is a little bit of a mechanic, but like also like Archie's car is a piece of shit, and it's got like 15 different colors of it because it's got all these different parts that have been like Frankenstein together to make it like even barely run. And
the best kind of car.
And like Betty has like put that together for him, like and helped him out with his car since they've been together, and like since they've been friends since they were like 5. Like its shorthand works really well to me for me to be like the most I've been invested in these characters in the many iterations I've read of them.
Yeah, it does. Like I was reading this and I instantly was like, why didn't like any of the other Archie horror things that we've read that didn't work for us, like even try to set any of this up? They just very much assumed that we had this kind of background knowledge, and maybe if we'd read a bunch of Archie, it would have made a difference. But I do feel like they could have just started with something. Like you want to see it within that world.
I think that I mean, this is Archie origin, and I mean Archie is got like very much a tradition, but the only time I'm ever interested when they do like stunt bullshit, like Archie versus Predator. And then I pay attention and I'm like, oh, well, Archie versus Predator, which the second one is the art is done by the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina dude. But like, or Archie makes, yeah, I know, Robert Hack, that's what he's been up to in the delay. So I'm like, Archie versus Predator 2, I'm going to have to read. I think its trade comes out for a free comic book day. Like it comes out and it's expected to be in the stores. So
I'd read that.
Yeah,
I'd read that in a heartbeat.
But, like I read, the horror ones, or I read this Afterlife with Archie where like Archie dies, or Archie has a coma dream where he like envisions his future 20 years from now with Betty, half of it's with Betty, half of it's Veronica. And I tried to read it and I don't know enough about like the core characters to know how it's being like messed with. If that makes any sense. So I ended up just giving it to a friend who was an Archie fan and she loved it. But I just like, I found it impenetrable. And this book, like, and maybe this is because of my 5th try, and I'm like, okay, finally, like, I kind of know who Reggie is. I'm supposed to be paying attention to who Reggie is. Like after you told me with Jughead the Hunger, like, no, he's a bad guy. And this, they're like, okay, whatever. I don't know who this Reggie dude is. And now I'm like, okay, I get Reggie, thanks to the Jughead the Hunger context. But I like this Betty. I like this. I like Sheila Wu, who I don't even know if she's in anything else. But I like her. I like this world. I like Archie's dad playing guitar. I like Jughead. He's cool enough. I mean, he doesn't really get much to do in this arc, but he's cool. I like it.
I mean, Jughead does a little, but yeah, it is mostly. I mean, this is the Archie, setting up the love triangle stuff, and they also had a Jughead, spin-off book in like 2016 or 2017 with what's her name from Squirrel Girl and Chip Zdarsky. Yes,
which was in at least the trade that I got from my library was the whole first issue was in the back, and I did not like that.
We can talk about that afterwards. I did read a few issues of the Jughead book, and I wasn't super into it.
Yeah. I remember you saying, I'm like, Chip Zdarsky's doing a Jughead book. Kia, this is great. And she's like, Kia, like, no, I don't like this. And I'm like, I bet you're wrong, Kia. And I read it today, and I'm like, nope. Kia 3 years ago was absolutely right.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm glad I'm consistent with my opinions. Chris, what about your first thoughts kind of reading through this first issue?
I mean, I agree with Vince. I like it. I think I know the characters a little better than Vince, so I wasn't confused at all. Like, I know who all those people are. It's not like we're like, digging up is it Ethel, whoever it is, that's like pretty far, like Moose's girlfriend, I think.
I don't know any of them.
Yeah, we're not going
Ethel
like
Merman, yes.
Yeah, we're not going that deep. It's pretty much just like the main characters they introduce. At least I don't know. You're saying Sheila Wu, and then was it Kevin? Was the other guy who I don't even know.
Was that
if he
Kevin
gets
Keller?
named. It looked like him in the first issue. That's trying to set them up.
That's the hard part with some of these Archie characters is that they got a pretty deep cast, and I just see like people saying word balloons and not paying attention to who's saying them like consistently.
Yeah. They do a nice job of putting in a lot of minority characters in the background to help break it up, which I do, I have to appreciate.
Archie's done a really good job of that. I know they've won like several GLAAD awards for like Kevin Keller and everything. Like,
that's good.
They've done a lot of diversity and inclusion. Like that, it's kind of a thing that they're doing. Because I mean, you look at Archie and you're like, that's like '60s American values. Like that's not going to be. It's going to be very backward. And they've been fairly progressive for what they are.
All right, so back to the story here. The homecoming thing is going pretty well, except the guitarist for the band doesn't show up, and Archie's there, setting everything up for the band. And so Jughead says, "Hey, this guy's a good guitarist. Why don't you just let him do it?" And so he gets to play guitar in front of everybody, and it's magical, and the women all swoon. And then they announce homecoming king and queen, which is Betty and Trevor Smith. What? And Jughead's like, I don't know. But then you realize he did it on purpose because they don't need to be forced like together. They just need to like see each other. And what is it? What's his line? What they needed is to be reminded of what they're missing. Oh, Jughead. And of course, we find out that he used the super glue to glue the real guitarist's hands to his steering wheel so that he couldn't make it to the show. This guy also looks incredibly angry. He looks like a supervillain who's about to turn into a supervillain. The look at this guy. That might be my panel.
He's not getting his $250 from the high school.
Yeah. Super glue gags. And then at the end of this one, we get the big billboard for Lodge Industries coming to town. Straight into the second one here, we just see little bits and pieces of Betty and Archie just kind of living their lives, trying to move on. I do like all these little moments. I feel like the book reads pretty quickly, but it's all just quick little vignettes that don't take too long to get through. We also get a little history of Jughead and how he used to be rich, but his family made some bad investments, and then he lost all that money. And his life philosophy is all about not really caring about what other people think of you. Whoa, what a cool guy. How does he do it? How does he not care?
Well, and he got the name Jughead because...
Oh, yeah, they invested in, like, jugs or something like that?
In a water bottling plant called Pure Jug, and that's why they call him... Is that accurate? Like,
I don't know.
Like,
you're asking the wrong guy.
I don't... Like, I've never considered why he's named Jughead. I think in Riverdale, his dad calls him Jughead. So I don't know where the name comes from, and it seems weird. Like, if that's the context, that like see, that's why I'm like, I don't feel like Riverdale's got to be following this continuity, because that would seem weird that like a family failure and then the dad would still call his son after the family failure. That seems weird, but okay.
Yeah, it does seem weird.
But it adds an extra dynamic because like him and Veronica have like weird tension as a result of like him being former rich, and I don't know if she's nouveau riche or old money, but it's an extra wrinkle, and I like it.
Yeah, I don't know that they had that reasoning before. They've always like, again, I don't know the characters super well, but I do know they've always hated each other.
Yeah.
We also see that that it's Betty is trying to have a birthday party, and her friend is like, hey, you need to get dressed up. This is like your first big birthday since the whole breakup, and she hates it. She's not good at dressing up, and so she doesn't. She's like, I just got to fix something. Meanwhile, Hiram Lodge, who is Veronica's dad, is hiring members of the local populace to build his mansion. I guess is what's happening. As you do when you're a rich person moving into a new city, you just hire the local teenagers to build your home for you. And so Archie gets
go wrong.
Yeah, Archie gets a job here at this mansion thing, but also, this is another great use of the ensemble, because they're all just like, oh, how are we gonna get Archie and Betty back together if Archie kills himself by being such a klutz on this work site? And so they're running around like picking stuff up out of his way and making sure he doesn't fall to his death, that kind of stuff.
And it's a cute gag also because he's doing his Zach Morris, Ferris Bueller talk to the camera bit while he's like oblivious to the fact of all this like destruction he's causing in the background, which I'm sure is like a Geico commercial bit also. But it's funny. It's silly.
Yeah, it works really well in that comic book format, and credit to Fiona Staples as art. It's just like really super perfectly done as far as just laying everything out.
Well. Her clothes, she draws clothes so well also, like just like stylistic people. She's so good.
By the end of this whole construction shenanigans thing, I guess Archie's working late and he's the only one there or something like that. But he completely demolishes. Yeah, he completely demolishes. Yeah, that's right. He is under. This whole thing feels very illegal. Archie completely messes up. Like he hits some piece of power equipment with a piece of wood or whatever, and it goes hurtling into the mansion, destroying everything. He's running away. Veronica gets a look at him, and I think Hiram Lodge just sort of like sees his face briefly, but Veronica instantly falls in love because like, oh, look at this boy who made daddy so mad, and just like the funny like panicked look on his face, she falls in love with. Meanwhile, we've got this birthday party going on, and Betty's, only kind of half paying attention, but she sees Archie get home out there, and Archie's like, whoa, somebody fixed my car. What? I guess we forgot to mention, his money troubles, he wanted to get his car fixed, but Betty went out there and fixed that car for him. Oh, how sweet. She still cares. Issue 3. What's happening here? Archie has become Veronica's complete and total lapdog. It's like her first day of school. Archie's trying to show her around because he's just like kind of like, oh, rich girl, oh my god.
Carrying her books, which I don't even know if the kids have books these days.
I think they do. I've seen kids carrying books around. I think they still have them. Okay. Yeah. You got to remember, just because the world is moving quickly doesn't mean that school districts are really happy to do that. Yeah.
Also true.
Yeah. So Jughead is like, okay, I got to intervene here. You're turning into a real idiot with this Veronica. And he's like, okay, I want to get Betty's help. Betty's going to help me too. And Betty's like, no, not my business. Not going to do it. Veronica has a terrible first day, and Sloppy Joe's in the cafeteria. She's just like constantly making rich comments all around the whole place. Nobody likes her.
She's mildly impressed by Sheila Woo's fashion, though.
She is. That's in the.
No, she mentions that I think before she barfs up the Sloppy Joe.
Does she? Okay.
It was kind of weird because like she mentioned it and then still talked shit about Sheila Wu like in the next scene. So I was like, this is okay.
Yeah. She's like telling rich person socialite stories in front of a classroom and completely interrupting class, but winning everybody over in that regard sometimes. It's like I like all those little bits of yeah, of course she would. She would just tell stories about meeting the governor or whatever the hell.
I really liked how she was completely confused by the pick yourself your own utensils at the cafeteria.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite bit of her. Just like, what is this for?
Mm-hmm. Anyways, the sloppy Joe she hates and throws up all over herself and runs into the bathroom crying. And, Betty, being the nice person she is, comes in to help her and says, hey, hold on, I'll go get you some clothes. And comes back with just, like, some random clothes that I guess they have at, like, whatever, like, is it the home ec class, whatever they called that?
Class,
something
possibly
like that.
Lost and Found. I went to my son's elementary school. I saw their Lost and Found, and it's an elementary school. I'm talking 3 folding tables long of coats and sweaters.
Yeah, kids are constantly forgetting their shit. Oh my god! Yeah.
Yeah. So it could have been any of those clothes. I don't know.
Could have been any of those clothes. Yeah. But Veronica's like, what? No, I'm not wearing that. And instead calls her butler, who brings over like a rack of different options for her to wear. I love that.
That's a good shot.
Of him just running through the field in the school to get there. That's great.
There's some good argument. That might be a panel of the week. That might be a pal.
I think that might be panel of the week. Yeah.
Again, this is like very much it could be a like Disney Channel show where it's like that's silly, where you just have a butler character who, like later he has a scene with Reggie and he's like looks like Ask Jeeves as he's like got his nose in the air. And yeah, it seems very silly to have a butler character in 2015.
And is his name Smithers?
I don't think I remember seeing Smithers. I don't remember what his name is.
I think I made this joke with Afterlife with Archie. I think it's Smithers, which is weird for me after Simpsons. But
Well, and he would be named first.
Yeah. They called him Smathers once too, so I don't know.
I don't know. We'll look it up.
He is in there. Smithers, yes, he is there.
Okay, great. Smithers, interesting.
First appearance in Pep Comics number 46.
Pep Comics?
So
wow, we got to read that next time.
Long predates Black Smithers, the original Smithers.
So Veronica sees all this business with the butler and everything. He was just like, all right, I'm in. Jughead, I'm gonna help you get rid of Veronica because she's terrible and she has to go. Issue 4, we get a new artist, and I think maybe I didn't think much of it at the time because it was like a flashback issue. We see what happened at the lipstick incident and how they broke up in the first place. I think this will read pretty quickly. They were just kind of going on a nice date, and for whatever reason, Betty's listening to her friends about how she's really got to do it up and dress more fancy and put on makeup and all that sort of stuff. And it's really weird because at the beginning of this issue, they were talking about how let's never change. Let's always be the same people. And so Archie's really turned off by her trying something different. And the whole thing just kind of explodes and it's weird and they break up. But it never felt super serious. It felt like they could have talked about it, right? I don't know. It seems like a weird way to just end years, and you're like they've been together since kindergarten, essentially, like best friends growing up.
Yeah,
so it feels weird. Yeah.
I mean, they're teenagers, and I feel like if not for Veronica arriving, they probably would be back together by this issue.
Sure.
But Veronica showing up has stopped them from what I would assume a natural breaking up and then getting back together.
That makes sense. All right, I'll buy that. There's not really much else for me to mention here. The art's not quite as good as Fiona Staples' art, but I do like it for what it is. It has that little bit of a scratchier, messier look. It's no Bill Sinkovich, but it instantly compared to the Fiona Staples art did kind of give me those vibes in a way,
I still think her hair that she draws is fantastic. Betty's hair in this whole issue is fantastic. Actually, I mean, Staples draws some great hair too, but Annie Wu draws some awesome hair too. And the coloring's good. It's still like pleasant. It's not classic Archie either, so it still works for me.
It also does this nice thing where, despite being so different from Fiona Staples' art, it's still super consistent with the new redesigns of the character that makes it just right after 2 issues. Well, like, okay, by the time we get to issue 5, we've now had 3 artists working on this thing.
Right.
And so you see it in a bunch of different lights, but the redesigns just kind of still shine through that and just work really well, I think.
I think also like there's just really good panel construction. The way the coloring or something just works on the page where they show her lipstick for the first time of her walking up and like it's Archie like washing his car, and then all the panel shows of Betty is just her lipstick, and it's just like the way it's colored just like works really well. Like it's good design. I like it.
Yeah. So anyways, that's why they're no longer together.
I like it though, like from a monthly standpoint, like having something called the lipstick incident and just like not going into what it is, just like having a weird stupid name for it, and then we'll pay this off later is a stupid way to make serialization an intrigue, but I like it. And it's also like not murder mystery or anything, but it is like some intrigue. Even though
right, like just enough intrigue to like keep you hooked in, but like okay, that's what that first issue I think does so well. It jumps you right into the middle of the story, so that you're at a good point where somebody new is coming in, so it feels like you don't have less information or more information than any of the characters. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of information missing, but just like the whole rest of this town, I don't know what it is exactly. I know what was in the past. I know that there's some stuff going on in the future. Let's go. Just a nice job. So number 5, Reggie Mantle gets a little bit of focus here. He's the asshole. He's rich. He's not like Veronica Lodge rich, but he's pretty rich.
He was Riverdale's richest kid up until Veronica shows up.
Yeah.
Which is the second word balloon first panel they introduce him as. So,
yeah. Not
bad.
We also see that Sheila Wu has been like taking pictures of Archie. What's all this about now? So Reggie is an asshole. He discovers these pictures, and I don't know what he's planning on doing with them. He's just like, he's very smarmy. Like, I don't know.
But in the same way, and I think we're hitting on the right words, like Disney Channel type show, and we're not saying that with any derision. It's just it is what it is. And I watch Disney Channel shows work for what they are, and they're fun, and they're like, but again, he's not a murderer. The worst thing he does is like drive fast, knock over kids' bikes, and has a fake ID. It's not like he's this. I mean, he's like not like a bad kid. He's not like getting people hooked on crack or eating them as a werewolf or anything like that.
I was gonna say, I think running over people's bikes does make you a bad kid.
Yeah,
sure, yeah.
But I'm thinking like Riverdale, where like people are murdering each other and sleeping with their teachers. Like, you know, it's not that type of edgy.
He's definitely more like Adam Scott in Boy Meets World, where he's dressed like a greaser. He is like mildly antagonistic to the show's protagonists,
and the guitarist from Rilo Kiley, that one too.
Sure.
Blake.
That guy. Yeah,
the Rilo Kiley guy, and Ethan
Suplee. Yes,
great bullies.
Oh boy, have we? Is there a Boy Meets World comic? Can we read that?
No. I bet there fucking is. Oh no.
I bet there's a Girl Meets World comic.
Oh, no, thank you. Yeah. So, what? They try to get Reggie's help. I do like the sort of splash page of Reggie like puppet mastering, Jughead and whoever.
And Betty, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is nice, yeah. And Reggie is like, all right, I'll help y'all if you can get me a new fake ID. Like my old guy, like I don't know, I can't use him anymore. All right. So
what happened to his old fake ID?
Hey, maybe that's a story for another time. I don't know.
It's like 80s X-Men in 15 issues. We'll find out what happened to his old guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are Pinterest Mr. Feeney comics where he gets arrested for something, but they don't look
doesn't
official.
sound real.
Yeah, I don't think we're veering into fan fiction with this show at any point soon, but who knows? Maybe we'll have a special fan fiction only episode of Boy Meets World comics. It'll be great. So they also are trying to convince Reggie by saying like, hey, look, if you break up Archie and Veronica, then you can sort of swoop in and go after Veronica yourself. He's like, I don't need y'all to help me with that, but I'm going to do it anyways. And his big plan is for Veronica to see that what's her name? Sheila Wu has all these pictures of Archie, and that is going to make Veronica jealous and like beat up Sheila. And if Archie sees her in this moment of like just being a massive jerk to somebody for no reason, and then Archie, being the goody two shoes that he is, will be like, "No, Veronica, I can't be with your rich snobby butt. Get out of here." And so that's Reggie's plan for the most part, right? It doesn't work because Veronica loves Sheila Wu's fashion, and we see that the whole reason she's been taking pictures of Archie is to develop a fashion line based on Archie's sensibilities, which Veronica also really loves because she thinks Archie's adorable. And so this whole thing is like a perfect combination for her, which then also makes Betty kind of be like, oh, maybe she does appreciate Archie. Oh, maybe she's right for him and my time is up. Who knows?
Which I think Mark Waid specifically put in there. I don't know how well it works for me, but the intent makes sense that he wanted to make it a little more three-dimensional and not just Veronica be a villain to Betty, but to Betty to have some type of sympathy for Veronica.
Yeah, I get that.
Or relation.
It didn't work super, super well for me, but at the same time, I kind of see this book as not being like, oh, I'm supposed to care immediately about Veronica. Like, I can tell that it's got a very slow burn kind of feel for it, so I'm like, okay. I can see what he's going for, and I think eventually it'll land there. It's just not enough yet.
Yeah, it's not enough.
I still think Veronica.
I think the intent is sound. I think the intent is sound.
Nobody's gonna read this and go, "Oh, maybe Veronica is right for him." Like, no, that's not happening yet.
Well, I don't know what you mean, Kia. She is right for him.
What?
She's beautiful and rich, and she cares about him.
What?
And she's elevating him to another social status. She's the whole package.
Yeah.
But then Betty fixes his car.
Yeah, I appreciate that she treats him like dirt. He deserves that.
Yes. That's my type. That's
so speaking of being elevated to a new social status, that's what Reggie really wants. Like, that's his ultimate goal, is to get in good with the lodges and then just like live in their sunlight forever.
He's like the Jared Kushner of Riverdale.
Oh my god, I forgot to mention, I'm on issue 6 in my notes, and then I saw that my next notes are for Marvel's Eye of the Camera #2. I always forget to mention this stupid book and how we're gonna read an issue of it after.
I'm sure if you'd done that at the top of the show, people will be like, well shit, I gotta listen through all this Archie talk.
Yeah. All right, we'll get to that. So number 6, Archie gets hit with a baseball. Oh no, Archie, are you okay? Who hit this baseball? It was Betty. But she didn't even realize it. It was so far away, and she hit it so hard. And she's like talking to some Indian boy, I think, who's like flirting with her. But she got exit cues. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, this is definitely an issue that sets up supporting cast that are not your traditional supporting cast, because Archie gets carried to the doctor's office by a Tony with an I.
Tony Topaz. That's her name. It's a good name.
So, like, we're introduced to her and this other guy. So we're getting like non-white characters being like, "Hey, I'm in this book as well. I'm not the main character, obviously."
Yeah, and they're just kind of there. Archie was supposed to walk Veronica home, and so of course Reggie swoops in to give her a ride, and he's like hitting on her the whole way, but it ain't really working. Later, when Reggie goes home, he's alone. It seems like his parents don't really care about him. They're not there to make him dinner. But he does. He hacks into his dad's computer by typing in the password, and reads like, okay, what do you got coming up with work, Dad? And he's currently writing an expose on Hiram Lodge and all the terrible business practices and stuff that he's got, which I like that in this world of, like, of course, if you're rich, you have done terrible things.
I also like how he writes these expose articles with a full title page with a big font. And page breaks to the next page.
Look, he's his own editor.
Yeah.
It's like it's a term paper.
Boy, Reggie, what a shitty son you are, but it just takes it straight to Hiram Lodge to be able to like get ahead of it and be like, hey, this stuff's going to be coming out about you soon. and also makes Hiram Lodge very distrustful of Reggie because, like, what are you doing, kid? Why would you be bringing me this? Veronica is also now working with somebody who has been like ghostwriting her memoirs. Like she's basically doing these recorded interviews, taking notes, that kind of stuff to be writing. We haven't mentioned Veronica is like a reality show star, just like rich to like this super like Paris Hilton-y kind of level of rich in this world. That's still my only point of reference for a socialite. I don't know. Kardashian, they do mention
Yes,
Kardashians. Yeah.
Way to update you.
Look.
I
There's
like
been
the Simple
two.
Life is close to 20 years old.
It's been Paris Hilton and it's been Kardashians, and there's nobody before or
There's
after.
no Real Housewives. There's no Teen Moms. There's no
What are
16 and
those?
pregnant.
I don't know what any of those
Basketball
mean.
wives.
Basketball wives? Wow, I don't know none of this. All
I
right.
don't think any of them are married to basketball players anymore, but that's neither here nor there.
Wow, great. Sounds like a great show. So Veronica, at this point, we also didn't mention Veronica knows Archie is the one who destroyed the mansion. And was like, oh, I won't tell Dad. You know, I think it's funny. It's adorable, blah, blah, blah. But, like, the ghostwriter kind of pulls it out of her during this interview. And so it's in her notes. And then later, Reggie and the butler are, like, swooping in. And they read this whole thing.
Oh,
And-
Smithers.
Yeah, Smithers. What are you doing, Smithers?
Apparently, I did a deep dive on Smithers. Apparently, in his first few appearances, his name was Jeeves. Which I don't know if that predates Jeeves and Wooster. Obviously, the TV show, probably not the P.J. Woodhouse novels, but I don't know when those came out.
Great question. I don't know.
I tried to figure that out, but I'm doing a podcast right now, so
Yeah. Then Reggie realizes, okay, if I don't know how Reggie realizes that Dad also would have seen that Hiram Lodge would have also seen Archie's face, but like kind of just goes up to Hiram Lodge and says, "Well, if this is the boy that your daughter's dating, and it's a picture of Archie," and he instantly recognizes him as the guy who broke the mansion. So, broke the mansion? I don't know. That's how you say it. Destroyed the mansion, ruined it. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more focus on the repercussions of destroying that mansion for Hiram Lodge, like him at least mentioning that there was like 2 weeks of work that you set us back, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like we never really got any of that. The mansion just kind of gets built and
there was
okay.
one line that was months ago.
Oh, okay.
There's, I think, in issue 4 or 5. Very
yeah, so this story is getting off the ground with the drama of a man who has illegally hired a teenager who then illegally destroys a mansion. Who's in the right? We'll never know. We might in future issues. But yeah, I'm glad I kind of got a chance to reread this because I think as far as like a reboot goes, it's pretty much the best thing you could hope for, just to like stay true to all the characters, have a nice redesign, keep it entertaining. Good reboot, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it very fondly reminds me of a teen show, a Disney Channel show that is done well, like that you don't look back at and you're like, ugh, like yikes, like a Saved by the Bell is. But now I'd be like, oh, this is super pleasant. I also don't think I would ever read more of this, but I really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't read this monthly. I would read.
Yeah.
If you put the stack of Kia when we used to introduce me to comics, if you dropped like all 32 issues, I think this ran before Mark Waid quit. I'd probably read it in a couple days. Just put it in front of my lap, and I'd be like, "This, I enjoyed this. It's fluff, but it's also really well drawn, well art, and it's pleasant. But I don't think I could read it monthly at all."
Yeah, I think that's why I fell out of it so quickly. There weren't any delays or anything. I was just like, okay, it's fine. I just don't care to read it a little bit at a time. It does feel like I want to get into this world real quick, and then I'm out of it. I don't want to stay invested with any of these characters.
But I liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked it. But I also know myself. I'm like, okay.
Sure.
But I liked it a lot. It's a better than a hashtag find. Like, it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I'd recommend reading it if you're looking for something pleasant.
I would as well. And I also really, really like the covers gallery. They did a ton of covers for issue 1. And all these covers, they're just they're really nice, I think. Good covers.
Yeah, they all seem like they're definitely taking like Staples' cue though in terms of like what the redesign looks like. They're not just drawing Archie covers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a nice little relaunch, and I do think it's cool. I mean, it's a book that you can you can hand to people that don't read a whole lot of comics and be like, "Hey, try this. You might like it." Because if you like teen shows, or if you like different things, you might be like, "Oh, this is interesting." I definitely like Fiona Staples' influence on the first few issues, because it did seem like it was more coming to it from a perspective of like, I think some of the old Archie can be a little like Betty can be like in a swimsuit a lot and stuff like that, where it can be a little on the cheesecakey side. Yeah. And this definitely didn't do that. Like they were written and drawn like real people, which was good.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Just flipping through this now, the Chip Zdarsky Jughead series does this thing where every issue is like him fantasizing about an alternate world that is also somehow connecting back to his current plight at school. Except the plight never feels particularly interesting, and the fantasized world never feels particularly interesting, and I wasn't into it. What was first?
I think it's fine. I read it. I liked it okay. Yeah.
I think I liked the first one enough to at least give the second and third one a try, and then at that point I was like, yeah, it's not working for me. What was this, like a Game of Thrones kind of parody, and him with burgers at school? Or am I mixing up two stories?
Yeah, I mean the whole thing was the principal like bans burgers or something like that, and so he has like basically a feud with the principal.
Yeah, see, it feels like super appropriate for a Jughead story. Like that feels excellent. Like I don't want anything else out of Jughead. Feuding with the principal over burgers. That's perfect. And for whatever reason, it just didn't like super land with me. And I think I don't know. Too bad, Jughead. Too bad, so sad. Let's move on to Marvel's Eye of the Camera, #2. A book about what it's like to get cancer and still want to do your job and not want to go through chemo, but then realizing that you probably should. Did I describe the whole issue?
Okay, I'm gonna preface this. That is an interesting story, and it is human stories. Definitely. That is very interesting. Yeah. If you want to read that, maybe check out Our Cancer Year from American Splinter. It's well done. Yeah. It's a true human plight story.
Contract with God, another good one.
Oh, yeah, by Will Eisner.
Yep.
Also great. Contract with God's really good.
Have we never read any Will Eisner for this show.
That's true.
We should do that at some point.
Contract with God's fucking good. The whole trilogy is good. It's a good Contract with God trilogy is really good. But that being said, when you tell me it's a sequel to Marvels, which is ostensibly a book about real people's lives impacted by superheroes and how they live in a world of superheroes, I don't want to just see how they live in this world. I want to see their superheroes' influence on said world. And when you take 6 pages to even mention a fucking superhero in a 24-page book, something went wrong.
My favorite is that my complaint from the first one was like, oh, it's not like enough like the first Marvels or anything like that. And instead in this issue, we get him talking to Doris about like, hey, remember that time from the first miniseries when we met this mutant girl and we have this picture of her? I'm going to look at this picture of her. Remember those big eyes from that first miniseries?
Remember how I didn't like her in my house at all? And I was totally shitty to her all the time? And then she fucking ran away because I was shitty to her?
Yeah, that I don't understand. First of all, I don't know who's reading this book that didn't read Marvels. If you're reading this book and you're like, oh, who's this one-eyed reporter? He seems like a good character, and you don't know what Marvels is. Like, what are you doing? And then to just spend this much time, like 2 pages on like, oh yeah, remember that episode of our lives?
And it doesn't go anywhere.
At all. It doesn't go anywhere.
Well, maybe she's going to come back in the next 4 issues. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm like, I really hate criticizing things for what I think they should be when that's not what they're setting out to do. But like, Gotham Central doesn't show the non-superhero cases they solve. Like, I'm sure that they also solve just like normal crimes, but I don't give a shit about that. Not for what I'm here for.
The one thing I did like is Phil's repeated hatred of Peter Parker. Like, you're that guy.
That's where
takes pictures to make Spider-Man look bad.
That's where my notes say like this turn. Yeah, that's when it starts getting. And I love that. I love that he thinks that Peter Parker is profiteering off and like just right neck and neck with Jameson in terms of like hating Spider-Man. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Right,
it's a real good turn.
It's great.
And it is, it's another thing where I don't think, if you're somehow reading this comic and you're like, who's Spider-Man? What's going on? I do like that, like the next scene is Spider-Man saves his life, or at least saves him from going to the hospital. Because clearly Peter Parker, like his spider sense went off like the second Phil walked out of the room, and he's like, oh, I should probably go help him.
Yeah. It's nice of him to do that.
Well, it's interesting though, because like I'm thinking like Peter was at this party and like, but he knows that Phil left the party somehow and he followed him. I guess he just spider sense was like something bad's gonna go down, so I should just keep track of him. And I usually I don't really like the art for this, but I do love the kind of chunky Spider-Man costume. It's based off of the Marvel's design from Alex Ross, but I like that he's a little fuller. He's not as like wiry as I'm used to. I like that. The costumes looks bulkier. It's not as tight fitting. I like that design.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's the 70s, so he's got his like permed hair under his Spider-Man mask.
Yeah. I do not like this picture of the Punisher that's featured for the next issue.
Yeah.
I think it's the cover. He looks like he's wearing like pantyhose over his head to obscure his face. But he's not. It's just like a weird way that it's drawn that makes his face look all stretched back and then weird. I don't know.
Yeah. And like this issue, it feels like it's a lot of time killing for like we don't need to see all this. Like so much of it is like, oh, all these people want us to exploit, like they want me to do a book about villains, but I don't want to do that because I like the heroes. Yeah. And it's just like, why? I don't think that's a moral quandary.
Yeah, it very much feels like it's just kind of treading its wheels the whole time. Like even after all this stuff with Spider-Man happened and everything, he's like, okay, I'm going to show the world the heroes and I'm going to make them believe. And it's like, okay, great. You haven't actually said anything. Like it's all a lot of very declarative statements that aren't declaring anything in this book.
Right. And like this guy, Phil Sheldon still sucks. Like that was the problem. Like we all liked Marvels, but he's the worst thing about Marvels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Phil, you're a terrible, grouchy old character.
Yeah, he's backwards, and I don't know if we're supposed to sympathize with him. I don't think. I hope we're not. It's just like he's just like a mediocre white man. I don't know. The thing is, and like I'm looking at it as like what I'm thinking I'm wanting from this book is Forrest Gump with superheroes. Like that's what I want. Like I want Phil Sheldon to just stumble into like every single like key Marvel event, and this doesn't really even give you that. It's like, oh, I was at the bar and I saw them like Captain America and the X-Men did something in Tennessee. Coming up at 10 o'clock. Like, he's not even like in the fucking thick of it. It's just on the news.
And yeah, they tell you it's the 70s because it's just like, oh no, there's a werewolf in Los Angeles. Oh no, there's vampires. The comics code is being relaxed, Phil. And it's just like,
like I do like that. Like some of them are like telling jokes, like how a Bendis comic would tell just jokes about like, hey, you ever hear of this thing? Hey, Werewolves of London. Warren Zevon wrote a song about it. And I like that part of it, but that doesn't need to be this book. And when we're selling this on Marvel's sequel, like to just sit and hang out with Phil Sheldon for 6 pages talking about his cancer treatments, that like if they were at least created by some radioactivity from hanging out near superheroes, I'd feel a little better about it. But no.
Yeah, it's like the fucking radioactive man got him cancer. That would be something.
No, he's just a smoker. He's just a smoker, man. This whole book, I think, I'm going to predict it's going to end with the little mutant girl coming back, and he is going to find out that he does have radioactive powers, and it's not cancer. And so
God,
Phil
if
is going to
he
become a
wears fucking
superhero.
costume. Oh my god. Fuck that shit. Marvel's epilogue, by the way, is now on Marvel Unlimited, so we do have a final button painted.
Oh,
by
an
Alex
epilogue.
Ross. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
I
That'll
guess
be
from
good.
2019. I guess painted by Alex Ross. So we do.
Wow.
So which
All right,
I think ignores this entirely.
Good. I
the
can't wait.
best.
I can't wait to hate on this issue I hate on this miniseries for 4 more issues after this, and then just have it all wiped away.
Well, I was reading like the annotation. Marvel's are annotated, and they were talking about if we'd ever done a sequel. Busick saying this, even though he obviously did one, is their original intent was the first one was going to focus on reporters, and the second one was going to focus like on a different like career or like vein of people impacted by superheroes. It wasn't going to just stick with Phil for all like there was originally going to be a trilogy of Marvels.
Yeah, and there was a series that I thought was connected to Marvels, but I don't think it was, called like Code of Honor or something like that. And it was about like this African American cop who like runs into the kingpin and stuff like that. So like it's not really a sequel, but like that's to me closer to what a sequel should have been, as far as just like, hey, it's just somebody in a regular profession who runs into superheroes.
Yeah, like Damage Control would be very much in the vein of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, or even like Gotham Central. It makes perfect sense.
Firefighters that have to go into these events or some shit like that. EMTs, that would be a good one.
EMT. I think there was a mini series called like Call of Duty. I think that was what it was before the video games, where they had like focused on the different professions, or maybe it was a bunch of one shots or something like that.
You know how impossible that would be to search for to corroborate that right now?
Yeah, it really would. Yeah. Why do I remember seeing this somewhere? It's like early 2000s. Is that even before Call of Duty? I don't know how long they've been around as a video game franchise.
Been around since Call of Duty 4 was 07, so
okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
So sometime around 03, 04 probably.
You could be talking about the same book I'm talking about, which was Code of Honor.
Could be.
I don't know. Could be. It's hard to search
quite
for. We'll check. Oh wait, no, yeah, here it is. Call of Duty was a series of short-lived Marvel comics featuring firefighters and emergency service workers dealing with paranormal phenomenon. 3 different limited series: Call of Duty: The Brotherhood by Chuck Austin. Ooh yeah. Call of Duty: The Precinct by Bruce Jones. Is he good? I don't remember. And Call of Duty: The Wagon, also by Chuck Austin. All right. I guess we're reading all of those next time.
Nope.
No, we're not. Definitely not. Definitely
we're reading
not.
I think camera number 3.
Yeah, I had the camera number 3, and we're gonna read some Batman Ra's al Ghul stuff, or Ra's al Ghul. How do they say it on all the different things of media?
Henry Descartes.
Oh yes, him. We're gonna read. We're gonna read Batman Liam Neeson's. It's called Batman. So we're gonna read like the first stories with Ra's al Ghul from Batman 232. Then it jumps to 243 and 244. Those 3 issues. They're collected in a bunch of trades throughout the year, but most recently it's a trade called Batman Arkham Ra's al Ghul. And it collects a whole bunch of other stuff, which we'll leave an option to read some of that stuff. But we are just going to focus on those 3 issues that I mentioned: Batman 232, 243, and 244. These are from 1971 by Denny O'Neil with art by Neil Adams, so should be pretty good. Seems to also like follow some of the Batman the Animated Series stories with Ra's al Ghul, so I'm pretty excited to read those. I've never read anything of his or with him as a character, and I think Vince, you were saying that you hadn't either.
No, I only know it from. I know it from obviously Batman Begins, and I remember people being like, "Well, that's a deep cut for Ra's al Ghul." And I remember getting a trade like called Batman Birth of the Demon, but that was like retellings of these issues from the early 90s. With like Mike Barr and Denny O'Neil, but I don't think Neil Adams was involved. And then, and I know that this heavily is referenced by Grant Morrison's run, because he was all about the Ra's al Ghul and the Lazarus Pits and whatever. So we're doing 70s Batman. Neil Adams, is Neil Adams the one that's all the cool Avengers art that we liked Chris?
Yes, way back in the Kree Skrull War.
Yes. And that Vision issue we read twice.
A Vision so nice. We had 2020. Did I say that right?
Yep, you killed it. Nailed it.
Thanks. All right, so I'm looking forward to that. Should be fun. I'm not looking forward to Marvel's Eye of the Camera #3, but alas, here we are. Thanks so much for being here, Vince. Thank you. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too. Oh, Chris, by the way, the Fanatic episode, really good, of Your Stupid Minds.
Thank you.
I can't wait to watch that movie and learn what it's like.
Nope, y'all just give me an update on what movies I see at Walmart every week. And I'm like, oh, John Travolta's in another wig. I bet Chris and Nick are going to cover it. And sure as shit they did. There's a Jim Gaffigan drama I found, which doesn't make any sense. Yeah, he's like a driver for mobsters or some shit like that.
Jeez.
Great. Are you sure it's a drama?
It says it is.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I trust that. I feel like someone messed up along the way if that movie is a drama.
Guys, we got Jim Gaffigan. Can you imagine spending 15 years trying to shop your script around your hard-boiled crime drama? And I love Jim Gaffigan. And then a stand-up comic who's not known for drama at all gets cast? How devastated would you be? I feel like I'd be devastated.
Does he do his voices in the movie?
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. Did he just kill that man? Yeah, good stuff. All right. All right. We're really signing off.
I still love you.
Okay, thank you. Chris, I love you.
I love Betty Cooper.
Wow.
I love you,
that's
Beth
fair.
Cooper.
That's cool. I love Beth Cooper and Betty Cooper. Is Beth Cooper a reference to Betty Cooper? It must be.
Yeah.
Must be.
Hayden Panettiere.
All right. And I'm Kia. Thank you so much for listening. We love you. We'll see you next time. Bye.